So that's all you ever see of kinematics, except when we come to specific applications where I've got to use tools that we've understood and the processes. So, just to keep you awake, we've got an assignment. So, you put an assignment to do. It's on Blackboard, it's in the assignment slot. And submission date is the 18th of November, so it looks like over a month today. The thing is that how you submit it, particularly ECS students who use CBAS, all students who aren't from ECS have to take the paper copy to the desk in Zephyr and they'll give you a paper receipt. It's a bit Byzantine, but they will do it. And if they say, well, we don't know how to do this, just tell them, I've told them to do it. That will give you 25% of the module's marks. In addition, there's a class test, or a cloud called a class test, also in the assignments bit of Blackboard, which is for some of the systems for you to try. And what we'll do on the 25th, which is about a week's time, I will go through those with you so you get better understanding. So you do some yourself, bring answers with you, I will go through them and we'll take it from there. Enjoy, that's the best way to put it. So, let's put that to one side and talk about this. Fine. Right. Resist. I don't know what the external content is. It will find when it gets to. So, we've talked about the robot or robotic systems or manipulators as an entity on its own. Was they just sort of stand there and we sort of look at them, we do a sort of kinematic analysis and ignore them. What I want to do now is move to the more interesting bit, which I think is more interesting of the module, is looking at actually how you use these things and also how you design them and how you actually get them to replicate the performance you require. So, we'll look at grippers, we'll look at tactile sensing, we'll look at vision systems, then we'll move into biological and surveillance. So what I want to start with is end effectors. In other words, the bit of the robot past the tool interface which interacts with the environment. So this is the first thing you'll actually see on a robot. If you want to buy a robot, it's no use buying one and it doesn't have a tool to do a job. This is the bit of the robot that does the actual job, the task. So it's the bit which is, I can't see, and I have to rely on the fact that you can read that. It sees the part of the robot that interacts with the environment. Pick something up, test something, move something around. It's a very loose definition. You could argue, I don't really want to do this argument, you can argue that the wheels on the mobile robot or the feet of the human are in fact end effectors. They interact with power. So it does go along with that sort of definition. But really what we want to talk about is grippers or the tools. So we really want to concentrate on how you actually use the tool to do something as opposed to wheels, etc., which we'll look at as a separate entity when we actually look at mobile robots. So with large numbers of tools, because I don't want to spend much time talking about all the different types, because they come with broad classifications. This is the three main types of vectors, except for actual grippers and robotic hand grips, which we'll spend a little bit more time discussing. Firstly, we've got spot welding. Large number of cars spot welded together. So this is the classic view you will see of a robot production line, car shells going down the centre of the production line, and robots on one side, and you'll see large amounts of sparks as these things spot weld bits of vehicles together. Why do we use those? Spot welding, if you've ever used spot welders, very heavy bits of kit, they're noisy, there's lots of force. And again, it goes to the same sort of mantra. You're putting a robot in a place where a human could do the task, but it's dangerous, dirty, rather unforgiving environment. We'll just go down to the bottom before we go back. Similar to that, start welding. MIG or TIG welding, metal inert gas, tungsten inert gas welding. Structures elements, etc. So you're welding a pipeline together, you won't do it by hand, you'll use a robot to go around that pipeline to actually weld it. So they're very good at welding these systems together. And spray painting, again, classic application. Very hazardous, dirty, unforgiving environment where we have to put a robot to do the job far better and far quicker than a human. Remember, of course, that paint comes in numerous different forms. It's either going to be a paint, so it's a liquid paint, or powder. And the powder is even worse than the liquid paint to get into the rubber. Again, it's electrostatic, perhaps aiding to give you that coat. So those are some of the types of end effectors that you'll find in a typical industrial production line. There's one type I want to look at in some detail, and that's grippers, robotic hands, etc. So, just so that we know exactly what we're talking about, a gripper or grippers are robot subsystems. So they can be analysed, they will be analysed in their own right. There's some very interesting things we have to worry about. They're just designed to provide temporary contact with the object you grasp. So they're temporary, i.e. they can move in and out so they can apply a force, and also they are capable of applying enough force to maintain position and orientation. So they are modelled exactly on your hand. So effectively the first robots had hand-like hands, but as time progressed, they've got even more complex or more similar to give you the capability which we require. The important thing to do, and then we'll look at this when we actually look at grasp planning and how you actually say that grasp is satisfactory, we must attain the position or orientation when the grip of the grip load during the task. So if the load moves, you will put forces onto that load. So you've got to apply enough force to that load so it doesn't get separated from in fact, the robot itself. So you must. This is very much like it is like the grape or the orange pip syndrome or bar of soap syndrome. You pick up a bar of soap, and if your hands are wet, the soap's wet, and you give it a good squeeze in the right place, it will disappear right across the room. So you've got to make sure you get the right forces in the right places, i.e. force closure, so that this thing doesn't move. What you don't want is your robot to move and the object it's gripping sort of to disappear off into the corner, making a very good sort of throw. We're not designing the robots to throw balls unless you've got that sort of task to worry about. There's numerous different types of grippers. Well, you argue with me what we've said. Some of those grippers you've got on that list there do not grip. The answer to that question is yes, I agree with that. But they come in this sort of classification of a system that will pick something up, move it around, and allow you to actually handle an object. Firstly, you've got impactive. That's the classic grip. So you've got a pair of fingers come together, applying a force, etc. We'll look at some of these in a little bit more detail later on, just to pick up some finer detail. You've got, if you want to pick up large amounts of material, carbon fibre sheets, cloth, etc., you have problems if you have to try to grip it. So what you do, you just put some pins in there and pick it up. And again, we'll look at that in a second. Abstrictive, using a vacuum or a magnet, big sheets of glass, big sheets of steel, you can't grab them, so you put magnets or, in fact, vacuum cups on the top of them. And if you want to do very small objects, you have to be very much more careful. Direct contact with glue, yeah, well, glue is one way, freezing is another way, or surface tension. So if you actually go and look at the animal or biological systems, we're looking at things like geckos which do have that ability to put glue or a glue-like substance onto an object to clamp a wall. So we're trying to make something which actually use that same capability. So let's have a look at the impact first. Right. Best way to start is to look at the human hand. This is what we're trying to replicate. It depends on how much we replicate. In many robotic applications, we don't need a human hand as complex as the human hand, but we can get away with 2 things or 3 things. If you look at the human hand, or your hands, you will note that you can do various things. You can actually sit down and work out how many degrees of freedom you've got, what's the overall complexity, and how you can control it. And you break that down and say, I want to make a robotic hand equivalent to the human hand. You will have a sizable challenge. So the first is 2 main types of grasp we've got to worry about. And this is the same for robotic systems. You can have a pinch. So when you have a pinch, you tend to operate the end of your fingertips. So it's rather like that. So it's at the end of the fingertips, picking a coin, picking a ticket, etc. So it's very delicate. So that's a fine mobility, so you can move those very carefully. Or you have power grasps, so you bring it into the palm. You bring it into the palm like that. That's one of the biggest cases, as in this case, waving a hammer around. That's the type of thing that a power grasp is used for. Now, if you read the literature of the text, you find that people have tried to classify human grips. And this is very interesting. Not really in the case of industrial robotics, though there is some crossover. But when we actually get to biological systems, robotic systems which are operating and interacting with humans, we've got to think a little bit more about the human grasp. So here we have, this is 6 of them. Now, depending on which bit of literature you read, you have 6 or you have about 18 of them. It depends how people subdivide it. But this really shows what you can do with the human hand. So you've got the cylindrical, so grabbing, that's the power type of grasp. Hook, so hook goes on the case. 3 fingers, palm, bring everything into the palm, or so that's a home type of approach. So it's very much task orientated, and you don't really consciously think, I'm going to pick up this suitcase, therefore I have to use this hoop grasp, or I'm picking up this coin, and therefore I use tip or a tongue type of grasp. You don't think about that. And that's part of the control system we've got and which is embedded into us. So we'll spend, when we look at the biological aspects of this, we'll spend some time looking at this problem of actually how you learn to pick up objects and experiences and sort of get that sort of degrees of dexterity that we're very good at, but robots are getting closer to, but really still got a long way to go. So just to give you a sort of picture or an inside view of the human hand, depending on how you define the hand, the hand defines about the wrist, so you've got the palm in there as well. So you're dealing around about 29 bones of various sizes. Don't go away and sort of start to count them, you never quite get the wrong answer. It's how many bones you put in the top of the wrist, how many bones you put in the palm, but it's around about 29 bones. You have also 29 major joints. So the joints we haven't counted in that, but you've got that. So some of those joints are not just pure rotary, they are in fact spherical. Take the thumb, I can do that thumb, which separates me from the apes and the gorillas, which can't do that. In there we have 120 main ligaments and tendons. Now that starts to give you a sort of idea of complexity. You've got 34 muscles control each hand. So this is the problem. Tendons and ligaments can only operate in tension and cannot operate in compression. So to move one finger, you actually have to have two tendons per joint. Or you go to use some other approach. I'm going to mention that in a second. There's 34 muscles, some of which are in the palm, some of which are in the forearm. So that gives you immediately one problem of when you're building a robotic system, where you've got the actuators. So we actually have, and you can quite easily see this, large number of hand muscles in that part of the forearm, connected through the wrist to the actual points of action. That's why, if you're unfortunate enough to get something like tendinitis, where the tendons swell, you know about it because they're going through very small holes in the wrist, and they are, well, painful, to put it bluntly. You also have 48 main nerves, muscular branches. So you have nerves that first control the muscles and also to act as feedback from the skin, position, etc. And to supply the whole lot, you have 30 odd main arteries, etc. The branches. So you're dealing with, if you sit down and look at your hand like that, you realise you're dealing with a very complex mechanical system which has a very sophisticated control system. And if you look at the human cortex, how much the brain uses the hand, it actually is a substantial part of our capabilities in just to do with hands touching, feeling, and manoeuvring. The important thing to remember is that your fingers and your thumb are not identical. So this is one of the things which has driven robotics or robot hand development in sort of two directions. All human fingers do not possess the same strength. Your little finger here does not have the same strength as your middle finger or your ring finger. So the middle finger is the strongest and the little finger is the weakest. You could argue what is the purpose of your little finger? Which is effectively left over when we have to have webbed and we can see. But it's really how they use sort of positive etc. So 21% in the finger, 34 in the middle, the ring is 27, and the little finger is about 18% strength. So bear that in mind, that when you actually move towards a robotic hand, do actually need all the fingers, do need fingers and all the thumb, fingers and the thumb, to actually allow us to actually handle something in the right orientation, in the right approach. What I haven't put on there is I should put a comment about the thumb. As I said, the thumb is an extremely useful bit of your hand because you can actually touch each fingertip with your thumb. Again, We don't really think about it. But it's, as I said, it's the thing that differentiates us from apes and gorillas, which don't have that flexibility. And it's just that one level up of dexterity which allows us to be even better handling tools, etc. So this is a type of open hand, or this is a type of hand type project that is well advanced. So this is a low cost prosthetic hand. This is made through 3D printing, and it has most of the features of the human hand. So it has 4 fingers, all about the right size. Now this one, it looks as though the two first and second fingers have been joined together, but that may just be joined together. No, don't worry about that. And we've got a thumb which is actually on that. So we've got the thumb which is on this sort of structure here, which allows you to actually move across the palm. What you'll note 2 things. Whenever you look at diagrams and pictures of multi-fingered human hands, you should ask 2 questions. What happened to the palm? And you look at that, and that palm is solid. So you have very great difficulty doing some of the standard human grasps of that type of hand. Secondly, where are the actuators? Those of you who are fairly close to the front will see, or those of you who think, there's little bits of white here. Those are effectively tendons, or the actual actuators. Those all go back through the wrist into the forearm. So the forearm, you know the picture being cut off about 8 inches off the arm. Behind that, there's going to be lots of motors, lots of mechanical systems. You will not be able to fit all the actuators into the human equivalent size of arm. If you look at pictures of the Stanford hand and the MIT hand, these are fairly old hands, but still of some of the best robotic hands that ever developed. They'll show you the nice picture of the hand, and then you dig a bit deeper and you see the complete system. So you have the hand which is attached to a human robot, which behind it has a box that's about as big as this lectern, which has all the motors, has all the control systems which you need to control the hand. So the fact the hand is human size does not mean that it has the same size for the control systems, the muscles, etc. So what we're trying to do is take the best features of the human hand and apply them to the robotic system. So if we look at it that way, we ask the question, what do we actually need to get us to actually get to this point? So we have some design constraints. Some of these push to more fingers, some of these push to actually less fingers. So we've got to get them right. So we're trying to get what we call force or form closure, which, as I said, means that if you move the thing rapidly, there's enough force applied in the right directions so the object you're moving doesn't fly off left, right, and centre. And if you read again, if you go to the literature, there's you want these sort of standard problems, so you get lots and lots of pages on. We've got force closure analysis of this robot, of that robot, of this robot, of that. So you've got that sort of thing. So it's very basic, but it can be, when you look at the screw geometry, etc., it can be very complex. So we want to make grasps which have a minimum number of contacts. We do that because every contact point has to have an actuator. An actuator comes with cost, both physical cost of actually putting it in the system, and also the size cost and the weight cost. So the fewer the number of actuators, the more efficient the system is, but conversely you risk challenges regarding it operates by safety, etc. Do we lose it? So, some rationale behind the 4 things. But if we increase the number of contact points, we get a better grasp. So you've got to ask the question, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to a very good grasp with 4 fingers and a phone and robotic system, or a grasp that you can get away with, which has 3 fingers and a little bit less dexterity? Boils down to one very simple question. What are we trying to do? So one task may want one approach, a separate task may need something else. And we can put this on a graph, a very strange graph, which we've got. Colours on. Right. So, you've got 2 lines on this. You've got one line, which is the dotted line, which is the percentage of grippers in industrial applications. And the second line is flexibility. So the flexibility is a measure of dexterity and a few other variables. What you note, firstly, is that most of industrial robotics relies on up to 3 fingers. So it's very much like a clutch type of grip tool, or this sort of clutch type system. And you find you can get away on most tasks with that. You don't need a fully controlled thumb, you don't need a little finger. You also note that flexibility goes the other way, as you'd expect. So the more degrees of freedom, like the more fingers you've got, so we're going to hear about 17 degrees of freedom, you've got a very flexible solution, but down here, very few people use it. And it just boils down to cost, control complexity, number of sensors, etc. So we're trying to get that sort of middle sort of ground, 2 to 3 fingers. And if you look at some of the literature, you can see this split occurring. A paper published a couple of years ago from grass people in the States who made this observation. They said that industrial robotics had been trying to go and put more and more things on, but there's a point you reach, this is going the wrong way. And they said the best way to go is to go to fewer number of fingers which you can control better, and it gives you that complexity of motion which you require without doing too many actuators. So there's a school of thought that says most industrial type of robot hands have either 2 or 3 fingers. You do need for some applications 3 fingers, but for most of them you get away with 2 fingers. You're picking up something. Because the important thing to remember is the task. You don't know what you've got to pick up next. So that's why you need to work. So you may pick up your notes, your mobile phone, etc. So you don't know what you're going to do next. On our robot production line, we know we're going to pick up widget A for the next 10 years. So we design our gripper to optimize picking up widget A. If we're moving to teleoperating systems where we don't quite know what we're going to pick up, we put more control and more things in. So it's that sort of hybrid which we tend to use. So if we look at the number of things and put it as a graph onto the table, we can go from 0 through to 4 or 5. So 0 is irrelevant. Let's forget that. Can you have a robot gripper with 1 finger? The answer to that is, depending how you argue it, is yes or no. It means that one of the side of the finger is in fact rigid and just sort of closes against it. But that really is a 2 sort of finger approach. Very simple, but as I said, only effective with a defined object. 3, this is sort of the optimum. This is where the crossover occurs between complexity and flexibility. Very flexible operation. 4 or 5 is only when you actually require the hand to be anthropomorphic, i.e. you're trying to get something which looks like a human hand. The important thing also remember is the little finger, as Bob was saying, doesn't really contribute much to human grasping capability. It's more like the use of signing, you can use it for anything, but it doesn't really grasp anything. It may act as something to stabilise it, but nothing much more than that. There's some interesting questions you can ask. If you've heard of the sort of the Canny Valley type approach, you know, when you actually approach a robot, when does it become too anthropomorphic, realise it's a robot, and you get sort of some discomfort sort of looking at that sort of environment? You have a sort of problem. As I said, fifth finger, no real problem. So 90% of the grip is, we'll stick with 2 to 3 fingers. So, let's have a look at some. If you look, I did this, made a shame with some of the results of it. I did a survey over the summer of how the robot being developed. And since about the mid-90s, there's around about 80 separate robot hands have been designs which have been published. Some of which are, you know, variants of one design, but they really do fall into sort of 3 sorts of groups. They fall into the ones which are determined to remain anthropomorphic, some of which are anthropomorphic and prosthetic, some of which are anthropomorphic and industrial. Then you go down to the 2 or 3 fingers, and then sort of the very specialist ones. Some of the grip are actually very soft. If you think of an elephant's trunk, or an octopus's tentacles, that's the word. So if you look at those are very powerful gripping systems. You know, an elephant can pick up with its trunk an apple, I think by sucking hard, or it can pick up a trunk. So could we actually make industrial grippers which are this flexible? Well, we have a major problem. How many muscles does an elephant's trunk have? But there's some of them which are around the neck all over them. Here we've got 4 of them, which are useful. It's fair to say that all these are fairly old, in the sense that the oldest one here is about 20 years old, but they do show the classes and the types very clearly. So let's pick up. The top one there is the one I did, that's the University of Southampton's hold-on manipulator. The important thing to remember about this is all the actuators are in the palm. So we put in, if you look very closely, there's 3 motors in that palm gearbox. So the thumb itself only can go back to forwards and it interact with the first thing. It's very powerful, it can weigh 2 kilograms. Now you may not say 2 kilograms is very much, but if you sit there and hold 2 kilograms bag of sugar for a couple of hours, full extension, you realise that 2 kilograms is a fairly sizable load of using that type of robot. This one here is from these 2 here, that Stanford's and the MIT one. Again, a very flexible finger, but again it has a large amount. You can see just at the edge of that diagram the start of the pulley system going back to the actuators. So this thing can actually handle, in this case, it's on the straight electric light bulb, which is a fairly interesting task. This one here is, in fact, the classic, this is the benchmark. Even though it is very old in technology terms, it's still one of the best hands around. It's a benchmark you've got to try to beat if you're doing it. So you've got the robot stand, you've got the hand there, and you've got the box of tricks behind it. And that shows that you have this problem of controlling many fingers. And this thing quite happily through the ball in the air and catches. do all sorts of things. Take a can of Coke or a robot with hand. This is very much an industrial. This is the barrack hand. It doesn't look much, but it isn't actually much. It's 3 fingers. What this will do is at this time the 3 fingers are in pure opposition, but you can actually get these 2 fingers actually swing out to 120 degrees, so you will have a pure 3 finger sort of clutch arrangement. This is what it's used in fact something kind by air to release the brakes. There's only 1 motor in there. There's 3 motors in that one. I can't remember, but I think there's about 20 motors in that one and about 20 motors in that one. So it's really complexity. Don't go out and buy one of these. It'll set you back about $20,000. So a good quality Robotic rivet is not a cheap item. They are fairly expensive. How do we power them? Because you go with the top, which is least to the most popular. You can use pneumatics, i.e. air. So people in about the mid-70s, early 80s said, let's make a prosthetic hand. This is the time before we have lithium batteries. And said, how do we get the maximum amount of power availability in the minimum amount of space? So let's use a compressed air cylinder, or compressed air. It has to have been clean. It's problematic for all the pipe work you've got to worry about, etc. So it is fairly time-consuming to sort of plumb. It's a plumbing job, like hydraulics. It's plumbing this thing together. So they came up with the fact, let's have a prosthetic hand which has a compressed air cylinder. Yeah, that went down very well. People say, yeah, that's interesting, but then they realised you're carrying around with effectively a small unexploded device in your own form. Batteries nowadays do give us better energy storage. When we look at prosthetics, we'll come across this again. Hydraulics leaks like a sieve sometimes. It's dirty, messy, you need pumps, you need turnpipes, etc. There is very few small robotic hands that use pneumatics. If you've got a big grip of it, if you've got a fairly big hydraulic robot, it's better to have a hydraulic system. But again, it's just sort of picking up, sort of steel or shipping around beer barrels. Most robots are in fact electric motor driven. You may find some which are shaped metal alloy, but most of them, like I said, are electric motor. 2 ways of doing it. You need to use tendons. I will talk about that next time, or solid linkages. In other words, you suddenly need to push and pull. So bear that in mind when we actually look at some of the design. So the first one I want to just talk through is, right, this is the Stanford JPL lens. You see the picture, and this really shows the complexity of these sorts of systems. 1985, I don't think there's been some work done since then, but this is still fairly sophisticated. First thing you know is this. This is the pattern drawings. So here's the fingertip, which goes to that drive there, which is 2 tendons, which run all the way back. All the other joints come off this one here, which goes back to body fixture. Then you have another set of drives which allows you to do that effectively. So it's a very complicated, complex system. When you look at this drawing here, you can see these, that's the tip joint there, there's the next one, the one which rotates around this direction here. All coming through this, and it says 35, actuated drive and control. That's the big box at the back. So even though this thing is very dexterous, it's very powerful in its own right, it does have a problem of all this control stuff you've got to put around it. And when you actually sit down and work out how much tension you've got to put into each of these tendons to get a force of the right size to stop your object disappearing when you move your robot quickly, you realise that you have problems and how good your hand is. We cannot replicate the tendons you've got in your hand, both the strength of them, unless we go to braided steel cables or slightly bigger diameter. But they also run in the synovial fluid, which means you get very low friction loss, and you don't get the problem, which you do in this design or any other similar designs, of when it goes across a pulley, so you're using a Kevlar or a piano wire tendon, you've got something that can cut into that pulley, and after a couple of years of operation, that pulley will have big flats in it. So you've got to worry about it. So that's that one tendon hand. What I want to do is talk about this hand, which is far more fun. This is the Bologna hand, and at least when you first look at it, you say it suffers from the same sort of problems. Actually, it doesn't. It very much operates like bits of your hand. However, you can actually move your fingertip, i.e. that, independently. Electric will not respond to anybody breaking their fingers. You can't do it. If you can't sort of hold that firm and bring that round. Why? Because those two joints are linked together. So those are designed to just go round like it. And so what they did on the Bologna hand is exactly that. They said, we won't have complete flexibility in every finger, so we can't put any finger joint in any position. Which I think you would agree is a fairly obvious thing. If you want to grasp something, all the things have got to come together. You don't want one thing to sort of go apart like that. Not sensible. So there is the design. Now, I think what we'll do is we'll finish with that, because it's going to take me a good 10 minutes for me to talk my way through it. But that's out of control. But we'll look at that on tomorrow, 10 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll start with this.